Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the flashing red lights on his control panel. His cargo ship, the Lucky Star, was not living up to its name today. The engine had been making strange noises for the past hour, and now it was completely dead. He floated in space near the Vega system, a place where smart pilots usually avoided going. "Come on, baby," Jake muttered to his ship as he tried to restart the engine. "Don't die on me now." Jake was a simple man who hauled cargo between Earth colonies. He was 32 years old with brown hair and tired eyes from too many long trips through space. His ship was old but reliable, or at least it used to be. Now he was stuck in the middle of nowhere with a broken engine and no way to call for help. The Vega system was dangerous because of the war. The Zephyrian Empire had been fighting humans for 3 years now. These aliens were tall, strong, and loved to fight. They had better weapons and faster ships than humans. Most human ships that came this way never made it home. Jake knew he was in trouble when his sensors picked up 3 large ships approaching. They were sleek and black with sharp edges that looked like weapons themselves. Zephyrian battlecruisers. His heart started beating faster, but he forced himself to stay calm. Panicking would not help him now. The alien ships surrounded his small cargo vessel. Jake could see their weapon ports glowing blue, ready to fire. A voice came through his radio, speaking in broken English with a deep, harsh accent. "Human ship, you are now prisoner of Zephyrian Empire. Do not resist or you will be destroyed." Jake looked at his dead engine and empty weapon slots. He had no choice but to surrender. "Understood," he said into the radio. "My engine is broken. I cannot move." A bright light surrounded his ship as the aliens used their tractor beam to pull him inside their largest vessel. Jake had never seen the inside of a Zephyrian ship before. The walls were dark metal with strange symbols carved into them. Everything looked built for war. 2 Zephyrian soldiers came to get him from his ship. They were huge, almost 8 feet tall, with thick skin that looked like armor. They had 4 arms and yellow eyes that seemed to glow in the dark. Their faces were like nothing Jake had ever seen, with sharp teeth and bony ridges where humans had eyebrows. The soldiers did not speak as they led Jake through the ship's corridors. Other aliens stopped their work to stare at him. Jake could hear them making clicking sounds with their mouths, which he guessed was their way of talking to each other. They brought him to a large room where a Zephyrian officer was waiting. This one was even bigger than the soldiers, with more scars on his armor-like skin. He wore a dark uniform with metal decorations that probably meant he was important. "I am Commander Vextar," the alien said in English. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "You are in Zephyrian space without permission. This makes you a spy." "I'm not a spy," Jake said, looking the commander in the eyes. "I'm just a cargo pilot. My engine broke down." Commander Vextar walked around Jake like a predator studying its prey. "Humans always lie. Your people are weak and dishonest. You send many ships to attack our worlds, but when we catch one alone, you claim to be innocent." Jake had heard stories about how Zephyrians treated human prisoners. Most were never seen again. He knew he had to be smart if he wanted to survive. "I don't know anything about attacks. I just carry supplies between colonies." "What supplies?" Vextar demanded. "Food, medicine, tools. Basic things that people need to live." The commander made a sound that might have been laughter. "Humans are scavengers. You take what you need from others because you are too weak to make it yourselves." Jake felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. "We trade fairly for what we need." "Trade," Vextar repeated with disgust. "Zephyrians take what we need through strength and honor. We do not beg like humans." The alien commander walked to a window that looked out into space. Jake could see stars and the distant glow of a planet. "Your people think they can win this war by sending many weak ships against us. But one Zephyrian warrior is worth 10 humans. "Maybe," Jake said quietly. "But humans are good at surviving." Vextar turned back to look at him. "Surviving? Is that what you call running away when we arrive?" Jake had spent years flying through dangerous space. He had seen pirates, meteor storms, and engine failures that would have killed most people. He was still alive because he knew how to think under pressure. Sometimes running away is the smart thing to do. "Cowardice," the commander said with a sneer. "Staying alive," Jake corrected. For the first time, Vextar seemed interested in what the human had to say. Most prisoners begged for mercy or tried to bargain with information. This one was different. He showed no fear and even argued back. "You are not what I expected," Vextar admitted. "Most humans cry when they are captured." "Crying won't fix my engine," Jake said. The commander studied him for a long moment. "We are going to attack one of your colonies soon. A place called Kepler Station. After we destroy it, we will have a victory celebration. Perhaps you can provide entertainment for my warriors. Jake's blood ran cold. Kepler Station was home to 50,000 people. It was also where his sister lived with her family. What kind of entertainment? Vextar showed his sharp teeth in what might have been a smile. Zephyrians enjoy watching enemies fight for their lives. It reminds us why we are superior. The guards took Jake to a small prison cell in the lower part of the ship. The room was barely big enough for him to lie down, with metal walls and a single light. As the door closed, Jake sat on the hard floor and tried to think. He was trapped on an alien warship heading toward a human colony. The Zephyrians planned to destroy Kepler Station and kill everyone there, including his sister. After that, they would probably use him in some kind of fighting game for their amusement. Jake had been in bad situations before, but never anything like this. He was one man against an entire alien army, but as he sat in the dark cell, he remembered something his martial arts teacher had taught him years ago. The biggest enemy is not always the strongest. Sometimes the smartest fighter wins. Jake Morrison might be outnumbered and outgunned, but he was not beaten yet. He just had to find the right opportunity and be ready to take it. 3 days later, Jake felt the ship shake as it came out of faster-than-light travel. Through the small window in his cell, he could see a large space station in the distance. Kepler Station looked like a huge metal city floating in space with thousands of lights twinkling like stars. The guards came for him soon after. They put metal chains on his hands and feet before leading him through the ship. Jake noticed that more aliens were moving around now, preparing weapons and checking equipment. The attack was about to begin. They brought him to the ship's command center where Commander Vextar was standing in front of a huge screen. The screen showed Kepler Station growing larger as they approached. Jake could see human defense ships moving to protect the station, but they looked like toys compared to the Zephyrian fleet. "Your people are brave but foolish," Vextar said without turning around. "They know they cannot win, but they still fight." Jake counted 12 Zephyrian warships surrounding the station. The human defenders had maybe 20 smaller vessels. It was not a fair fight. They're protecting their homes and families. "And they will die for it," the commander replied. "Just like you will die for our entertainment." A communication officer spoke to Vextar in the Zephyrian language. The commander nodded and walked to a control panel. "Open channel to the human station," he ordered in English. The screen changed to show the inside of Kepler Station's command center. A woman in a blue uniform appeared on the screen. She had short black hair and determined eyes. Jake could see other officers working frantically behind her. "This is Captain Lisa Parker of Kepler Station," the woman said. "You are in human space without permission. Leave immediately or we will defend ourselves." Vextar laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through the command center. "I am Commander Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. We have come to claim this station for our people. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Captain Parker's expression did not change. "We will never surrender to aliens who attack innocent people." "Then you will watch your people die slowly," Vextar said. He gestured to the guards who pushed Jake into view of the camera. "We have captured one of your cargo pilots. After we destroy your station, he will fight for his life in our victory celebration." Jake saw Captain Parker's eyes widen when she saw him. He had met her once before when delivering supplies to the station. She was known as a tough but fair commander who cared about her people. "Let him go," Parker demanded. "He's not a soldier. He's just a civilian." "In war there are no civilians," Vextar replied. "Only winners and losers." Jake knew this might be his only chance. He had been thinking about Zephyrian culture during his time in the cell. These aliens respected strength and honor above everything else. They had ancient laws about combat that were more important than their military rules. "Wait," Jake said loudly, stepping forward despite his chains. "I challenge your champion to single combat." The command center fell silent. Every Zephyrian turned to stare at Jake. Commander Vextar looked shocked. Even Captain Parker seemed surprised. "What did you say?" Vextar asked slowly. "I invoke the right of trial by combat," Jake repeated, trying to remember the exact words he had heard in stories about Zephyrian culture. Single combat between champions with the winner taking all. The commander's yellow eyes grew bright with interest. Jake could hear other Zephyrians talking excitedly in their clicking language. He had clearly said something important. "You know our ancient laws?" Vextar asked. Jake nodded, even though he only knew bits and pieces from stories and rumors. Every species has the right to trial by combat when facing overwhelming odds. One of the other officers spoke to Vextar in their language. The commander listened, then turned back to Jake with what looked like amusement. "You are either very brave or very stupid," Vextar said. "Do you know what you are asking?" "I'm asking for a fair fight," Jake replied. "One-on-one. If I win, you spare the station and let me go. If I lose, you can do whatever you want." Captain Parker's voice came from the screen. "Jake, don't do this!" "You don't understand what you're getting into." But Jake did understand, at least partly. He had read about Zephyrian honor codes during his long trips through space. These aliens lived by rules that were older than their space empire. If he could make them follow those rules, it might give the station a chance. Commander Vexitar walked around Jake, studying him like a puzzle he was trying to solve. "Our champion has never been defeated. Kronadar has killed over 200 enemies in single combat. He is 8 feet tall and has 4 arms. His skin is like armor and his strength can crush metal." Jake felt his stomach drop, but he kept his expression calm. Then it should be easy for him to beat one human. "It will be," Vextar agreed. "But our laws say that if someone invokes trial by combat, we must accept. The old ways are sacred to us." The commander turned to address his crew in their language. Jake could not understand the words, but he could tell there was a debate happening. Some aliens seemed excited, while others looked concerned. Finally, Vextar turned back to the screen where Captain Parker was still watching. "The human has invoked our ancient right of trial by combat. We are bound by honor to accept." "This is insane," Parker said. "You're going to let one man fight for the lives of 50,000 people?" "The old laws are clear," Vextar replied. "Single combat between champions. If the human wins, we will spare your station and leave your space. If he loses," the commander smiled, showing his sharp teeth, "we will destroy everything." Jake saw the despair on Captain Parker's face. She knew he had no chance against an alien champion, but she also knew this was the only opportunity they had. The human defense fleet could not stop the Zephyrian attack. "When?" Parker asked quietly. 3 days, Vextar announced. "The human will have time to prepare, though it will not matter. Krondar will tear him apart for the glory of our empire." The screen went dark as the Zephyrians ended the communication. Commander Vextar looked at Jake with something that might have been respect. "You have given your people 3 more days of life," he said. "Most humans would have spent that time begging for mercy. Instead, you chose to face death with honor." "I'm not dead yet," Jake replied. Vextar laughed. "No, but you will be soon. Take him to the preparation chambers. Let him train if he wishes. It will make the fight more entertaining." As the guards led him away, Jake tried to stay confident. He had bought time for Kepler Station, but now he had to figure out how to actually win the fight. He was going up against an alien champion who had never lost a battle. Jake Morrison had 3 days to prepare for the most important fight of his life. The problem was he had no idea how to beat an 8-foot-tall alien warrior with 4 arms and skin-like armor. But he had to try. 50,000 people were counting on him, including his sister and her family. Jake had never backed down from a challenge before, and he was not about to start now. Jake's new cell was much larger than his prison room. The Zephyrians had given him a training area with basic exercise equipment and even some simple weapons to practice with. They wanted him to be ready for the fight, not because they cared about fairness, but because a good battle would be more entertaining. On his first day of preparation, Jake did not touch the weapons. Instead, he sat quietly and watched the guards who brought him food. He listened to their conversations and studied how they moved. Every piece of information might be useful. The guards were surprised that the human was not training frantically. Most prisoners would have spent every moment trying to get stronger or practicing with weapons. Jake seemed calm, almost relaxed. "Human does not prepare for death," one guard said to another in broken English. "Maybe he is already crazy from fear." Jake pretended not to hear them, but he was learning. The guards thought he was giving up, which meant they were not watching him carefully. This gave him time to think and plan. On the second day, a Zephyrian scientist came to visit him. She was smaller than the soldiers, with lighter skin and only 2 arms instead of 4. Her name was Dr. Zara, and she seemed curious about human biology. "I study different species," she explained as she ran a scanner over Jake's body. "Humans are interesting. You are much weaker than Zephyrians, but you survive in many different environments." Jake decided to be friendly with the scientist. She might give him information without meaning to. Humans are good at adapting to new situations. "Yes, I have noticed this," Dr. Zara agreed. Your bodies are not specialized for any one thing. Sci-Fians are built for combat. We are strong, fast, and have natural armor. But humans can do many different things. What else have you learned about us? Jake asked. The scientist seemed pleased that he was interested in her work. Humans have excellent endurance. Your hearts and lungs work very efficiently. Most species get tired quickly, but humans can keep going for long periods. This was useful information. Jake had always been a good distance runner back on Earth. Maybe his stamina would help in the fight. Tell me about Krondar, Jake said casually. I want to know what I'm facing. Dr. Zara looked around to make sure no guards were listening. The champion is very proud of his victories. He has never lost because he is bigger and stronger than every opponent. Krondar likes to end fights quickly with overwhelming force. How does he usually win? He charges at enemies and crushes them with his forearms. His skin is thick like armor, so most weapons cannot hurt him easily. He is also very fast despite his size. Jake nodded thoughtfully. A big, strong opponent who relied on direct attacks. This was starting to sound like every bully he had ever faced in school or at the gym. That night, Jake finally started his real training. But he did not use the weights or practice with weapons like the guards expected. Instead, he did yoga and stretching exercises. He practiced moving quickly and quietly. He worked on his balance and flexibility. The guards thought he was wasting time with strange human rituals. They laughed and made jokes about the weak human who did not know how to prepare for battle. Jake let them laugh. He had learned long ago that underestimating an opponent was a mistake. If the Zephyrians thought he was weak and unprepared, that could work in his favor. On the third day, Dr. Zara came back with more information. She seemed to like talking to Jake because he listened to her scientific explanations. I have been thinking about your fight, she said quietly. Krondar has one weakness. He expects enemies to fight like Zephyrians, direct attacks, strength against strength. He has never faced someone who fights differently. What do you mean differently? Humans invented many fighting styles on your world, yes? Boxing, wrestling, martial arts. Zephyrians only know one way to fight. We overwhelm enemies with superior force. Jake had studied martial arts for 15 years before becoming a cargo pilot. He knew boxing, wrestling, judo, and several other fighting styles. Maybe the scientist was right. Maybe Krondar had never faced anyone who could adapt and change tactics during a fight. Why are you helping me? Jake asked. Dr. Zara looked sad. Many of my people think this war is necessary. But I study other species and I know humans are not evil. You are different from us, but that does not make you enemies. If you somehow win tomorrow, maybe it will show others that there are alternatives to endless fighting. That evening, Commander Vextar came to see Jake. The alien commander seemed pleased that the fight would happen soon. Are you ready to die for your people? Vextar asked. Are you ready to be surprised? Jake replied. The commander laughed. I like your spirit, human. It will make your defeat more entertaining. Krondar is looking forward to adding another victory to his record. Tell me something, Jake said. What happens to Zephyrians who lose in combat? Vextar's expression became serious. Warriors who fight with honor are respected even in defeat. But those who run away or fight without courage are shamed forever. And what about warriors who win against impossible odds? They become legends, the commander admitted. Why do you ask? Jake smiled. Just curious about your culture. After Vextar left, Jake spent his last night going through everything he had learned. Krondar was bigger, stronger, and had more arms. He had never lost a fight and was used to winning easily. The champion expected direct combat and overwhelming force. But Jake had advantages too. He was more flexible and probably had better endurance. He knew multiple fighting styles and could change tactics quickly. Most importantly, Krondar had never faced a human in single combat before. Jake had been teaching martial arts for years before he became a pilot. He knew that the biggest, strongest student was not always the best fighter. Sometimes the person who could think faster and adapt better would win. The key would be to avoid Krondar's strengths while using his own advantages. Jake could not match the alien's power, so he would have to be smarter and more creative. As Jake tried to sleep, he thought about his sister and her children on Kepler Station. He thought about Captain Parker and her crew, who were probably spending this night preparing for their own deaths. 50,000 people were depending on him to do something impossible. Jake had always believed that impossible just meant nobody had figured out how to do it yet. Tomorrow he would either prove that humans could surprise anyone, or he would die trying. Either way, he planned to give Krondar the fight of his life. The arena was larger than Jake had expected. It was a circular room with metal walls that rose 30 feet high. Hundreds of Zephyrian warriors sat in seats around the fighting area, all of them eager to watch their champion destroy the human. The noise was incredible as they clicked and roared their approval. Jake stood in the center of the arena wearing simple fighting clothes and light boots. The Zephyrians had offered him armor and weapons, but he had chosen only a basic combat knife. He needed to be fast and mobile, not weighed down by heavy equipment. Commander Vextar stood on a raised platform overlooking the arena. His voice boomed through speakers as he addressed the crowd in their language. Jake could not understand the words, but he could tell the commander was introducing the fighters. "And now," Vextar said in English, "the human Jake Morrison will face our greatest champion in trial by combat. The winner takes all." A gate opened on the opposite side of the arena and Krondar stepped out. Jake had expected the champion to be big, but seeing him in person was still shocking. The alien warrior was nearly 8 feet tall and covered in thick, dark skin that looked like natural armor. His forearms were each as thick as Jake's whole body, and his hands ended in sharp claws. Krondar wore ceremonial armor on his chest and shoulders, decorated with symbols of his victories. He carried 2 large swords, one in each of his upper arms. His yellow eyes locked onto Jake with the confidence of someone who had never lost a fight. The crowd cheered as their champion raised his weapons above his head. Krondar basked in their approval, turning slowly to show off for his audience. Jake used this time to study his opponent's movements and look for any weaknesses. The champion was powerful, but he moved like someone who was used to easy victories. His stance was aggressive but not careful. He held his weapons high to intimidate rather than in the best position for quick attacks. Krondar was showing off instead of focusing on the fight. "Human," Krondar called out in a deep voice. "I have killed warriors from 12 different species. You will be the first of your kind to die by my hand, but you will not be the last." Jake did not reply. He was concentrating on his breathing and staying loose. In martial arts, the first rule was to remain calm no matter what the opponent said or did. Commander Vexitar raised his hand for silence. "The trial by combat will begin when I give the signal. Fight with honor, and may the strongest warrior win." He paused dramatically. "Begin!" Krondar immediately charged across the arena with a roar that shook the walls. His strategy was exactly what Jake had expected. Overwhelm the enemy with pure force and end the fight quickly. Jake waited until the last possible second, then dove to his right as the champion's swords cut through the air where he had been standing. The blades hit the metal floor with a sound like thunder, sending sparks flying. The crowd gasped. Most opponents would have tried to block or counterattack. Instead, the human had simply avoided the assault completely. Krondar spun around faster than Jake had expected. The champion's lower left arm swung toward Jake's head, while his upper right arm brought a sword down from above. It was a coordinated attack that would have destroyed most enemies, but Jake was not where Krondar expected him to be. Using footwork from boxing, Jake slipped inside the champion's reach and struck with his knife at a gap in the alien's armor. The blade scraped against Krondar's thick skin but did not penetrate deeply. Krondar backhanded Jake with his lower right arm, sending the human rolling across the floor. Jake felt like he had been hit by a truck, but he forced himself to get up immediately. In a fight like this, staying down meant death. The crowd was clicking excitedly. They had expected the human to be crushed in the first exchange. Instead, he had actually managed to strike their champion and avoid being killed. Krondar touched the shallow cut on his side and looked at the small amount of blood on his fingers. For the first time in years, an opponent had hurt him. His yellow eyes blazed with anger. "You are faster than I expected," the champion admitted, "but speed will not save you." This time Krondar approached more carefully. He held his swords ready and watched for Jake's movements. The champion was learning, which made him more dangerous. Jake circled to his left, staying just outside of Krondar's reach. He was looking for patterns in how the alien moved and attacked. Every fighter had habits, even champions who had never lost. Krondar lunged forward with both swords, then followed up with punches from his lower arms. Jake ducked the first sword, rolled under the second, and came up behind the champion. But Krondar was ready for this and spun around with a backhand that caught Jake in the ribs. Jake felt at least one rib crack, but he managed to grab Krondar's arm as he flew backward. Using the alien's own momentum, Jake pulled himself up and wrapped his legs around Krondar's neck in a wrestling move called a triangle choke. The crowd fell silent. No one had ever seen anything like this. Instead of trying to match the champion's strength, the human was using leverage and technique to control the much larger opponent. Krondar struggled to break free, but Jake's position made it impossible for the champion to use his swords effectively. The alien tried to grab Jake with his lower arms, but the human shifted his weight and tightened the choke. For several seconds, it looked like Jake might actually win. But Krondar was incredibly strong. With a roar of fury, he threw himself backward and slammed Jake into the arena wall. Jake lost his grip and fell to the floor, his back screaming in pain. Krondar stood over him, breathing heavily but still dangerous. Both fighters were hurt now, but the champion still had the advantage. Clever, Krondar gasped. But tricks will not defeat true strength. Jake struggled to his feet, using the wall for support. His ribs ached and his back felt like it was on fire, but he was still alive. More importantly, the fight had gone on much longer than anyone expected. Krondar was breathing hard and moving more slowly. The human strategy was working. Jake could not overpower the champion, but he could tire him out. Humans had the best endurance of any species in the galaxy. If Jake could make the fight last long enough, Krondar's strength would become a weakness. "Come on then," Jake said, raising his knife. "Show me this true strength." Krondar charged again, but this time his movements were slightly slower. Jake dodged and struck, then moved away before the champion could counterattack. He was fighting like a boxer against a heavyweight, using movement and quick strikes to wear down his opponent. The crowd was no longer cheering. They were watching in stunned silence as their unbeatable champion struggled against a single human. This was not how the fight was supposed to go. Round after round, Jake avoided Krondar's powerful attacks and responded with quick strikes of his own. None of his hits did serious damage, but they added up. More importantly, the champion was getting tired from swinging his heavy weapons and chasing the elusive human. After 15 minutes of fighting, Krondar was breathing like a marathon runner. Sweat poured down his armored skin, and his movements had become predictable. Jake was hurt too, but his endurance training was paying off. The moment Jake had been waiting for finally came. Krondar raised both swords for a killing blow, but he was too tired to make it fast enough. Jake stepped inside the champion's guard, grabbed the alien's weapon arm, and used a judo throw to send the 8-foot warrior crashing to the floor. Krondar tried to get up, but Jake was already moving. Using a combination of wrestling and martial arts that no Zephyrian had ever seen, he put the champion in a submission hold that controlled all 4 arms. The arena was completely silent now. Their greatest champion was trapped by a human who was half his size. "Yield," Jake said quietly. Krondar struggled for a moment, then realized he could not break free. For the first time in his life, he had been truly defeated. "I yield," the champion gasped. The silence stretched for several heartbeats. Then Commander Vextar's voice echoed through the arena. "The human has won." Jake released his hold on Krondar and stepped back, breathing heavily. The arena remained silent as hundreds of Zephyrian warriors tried to understand what they had just witnessed. Their unbeatable champion lay on the floor, defeated by a human cargo pilot. Krondar slowly sat up, his 4 arms shaking from exhaustion. He looked at Jake with something that might have been respect. "How?" he asked simply. "You're stronger and faster," Jake admitted, offering his hand to help the champion stand. "But humans learn many different ways to fight. I used what worked best against you." The alien warrior accepted Jake's help getting to his feet. This small gesture surprised the watching crowd even more than the fight itself. In Zephyrian culture, enemies were destroyed, not helped. Commander Vextar climbed down from his platform and walked across the arena floor. His expression was unreadable as he approached the 2 fighters. The other Zephyrians watched nervously, unsure what their commander would do. "In over 300 years of combat trials," Vextar said slowly, "no champion has ever been defeated." He looked at Jake with his glowing yellow eyes. "You have done something that should be impossible." Jake wiped blood from a cut on his forehead. "I had good teachers. What teachers could prepare a human to defeat Krondar? Every opponent I ever faced taught me something," Jake explained. "Big guys who tried to overpower me, fast fighters who relied on speed, wrestlers who used technique. I learned from all of them." Vextar nodded thoughtfully. You did not try to become stronger than our champion. Instead, you became different from what he expected. That's the human way, Jake said. We adapt. The commander turned to address his warriors in their own language. Jake could not understand the words, but he could tell it was important. Some aliens looked angry, while others seemed thoughtful. Finally, Vextar switched back to English. By the ancient laws of trial by combat, you have won. The Zephyrian Empire will honor its agreement. Kepler Station will be spared, and you are free to go. A communication officer approached and whispered something to the commander. Vextar listened, then nodded. Captain Parker wishes to speak with you, he told Jake. The arena's main screen activated, showing the command center of Kepler Station. Captain Parker appeared with tears in her eyes, surrounded by cheering officers and crew members. Jake, you did it, she said, her voice filled with amazement. You actually did it. Jake managed a tired smile. Told you I wasn't dead yet. The whole station watched the fight, Parker continued. I don't know how you pulled that off, but you saved 50,000 lives today. Commander Vextar stepped closer to the screen. Captain Parker, your champion has earned the respect of the Zephyrian Empire. He fought with honor and courage. Will you really honor the agreement? Parker asked cautiously. Our word is sacred, Vextar replied. We will leave your space and not return to threaten this station. However, the war between our peoples is not over. This was only one battle. Jake had been thinking about this during the fight. Winning had saved Kepler Station, but it had not solved the larger problem. Humans and Zephyrians were still enemies. What if it didn't have to be? Jake said suddenly. Both Vextar and Captain Parker looked at him in confusion. The war, Jake explained. What if there was another way? Humans and Zephyrians cannot coexist, Vextar said firmly. We are too different. Different doesn't have to mean enemies, Jake argued. I just proved that. I was different from what your champion expected, and that's why I won. But after the fight, Krondar and I helped each other. Krondar, who had been listening quietly, stepped forward. The human speaks truth. I have fought many enemies, but none showed me respect after victory. This one is unusual. Jake saw an opportunity. Commander, your people respect strength and honor, right? Above all else, Vextar confirmed. Then respect what humans bring to the galaxy. We're not trying to be Zephyrians. We're trying to be the best humans we can be. That means learning, adapting, and finding new solutions to old problems. Dr. Zara, the scientist who had helped Jake, spoke up from the crowd. The human makes sense. We could learn from each other instead of destroying each other. Vextar looked around at his warriors. Jake could see that some were nodding in agreement. The fight had changed how they viewed humans. What are you proposing? The commander asked. Jake took a deep breath. He was making this up as he went along, but it felt right. An exchange program. Humans who want to learn about Zephyrian culture and combat techniques. Zephyrians who want to study human adaptability and technology. We share knowledge instead of trading deaths. Captain Parker leaned forward on the screen. That's actually not a bad idea. We could start with small groups, see how it works. I would volunteer, Krondar announced, surprising everyone. This human taught me that there are fighting techniques I have never seen. I wish to learn more. And I would study Zephyrian biology and culture, Dr. Zara added. There is much we could discover together. Commander Vextar was quiet for a long time, considering the proposal. Finally, he spoke. The Empire's leaders would need to approve such an arrangement. But perhaps it is time to try something new. He looked at Jake with what might have been admiration. You have given us much to think about. 3 hours later, Jake stood in the hangar bay of the Zephyrian ship, watching as his cargo vessel was prepared for departure. The aliens had repaired his engine and refueled his tanks. He was free to go home. Krondar approached him, moving more easily now that his injuries had been treated. Human Jake Morrison, the former champion said formally, I request permission to accompany you to Kepler Station. You want to come with me? Jake asked in surprise. You defeated me fairly. In Zephyrian tradition, this makes you my teacher. I wish to learn your fighting methods, Jake grinned. I'd be honored to teach you, but you'll have to learn that humans don't just fight. We talk, laugh, and share meals together too. These are also forms of combat? Krondar asked seriously. In a way, Jake laughed. The combat of making friends instead of enemies. Commander Vextar joined them as Jake prepared to board his ship. The Empire will consider your proposal carefully. If we proceed, you will be our first human liaison. I'm just a cargo pilot, Jake protested. You are the human who defeated our greatest champion and then offered friendship instead of demanding surrender. You understand both our peoples." Vextar extended his hand in the human gesture of respect. "Perhaps that makes you the right person for this job." Jake shook the alien commander's hand. "I guess we'll find out." As his ship pulled away from the Zephyrian fleet, Jake looked back at the massive warships that had come to destroy Kepler Station. Now they were escorting him safely home instead. He had started this journey as a simple cargo pilot with a broken engine. Now he was apparently humanity's first diplomatic liaison to an alien empire. His sister was going to be so surprised. Jake Morrison settled into his pilot's chair and set course for Kepler Station. Behind him, Krondar was studying a book about human martial arts with the intensity of a dedicated student. Maybe, Jake thought, being different from everyone else was not such a bad thing after all. Sometimes different was exactly what the galaxy needed.